Okay, we came up Stevens Canyon Road up to the gate and then about a mile past the gate roughly. And so this is about 3 miles up from the Speleothem cache. Like I mentioned, this is the tale of two geocaches. And this was the second geocache in this story. And chronologically, it was actually the first one I tried to find. So back in late 2017, I think is when I started figuring out all the pieces to do geocaching on the bike. At the time, what I would do, I would download the GPX file, copy that over to Basecamp, which is the Garmin app, and then I'd upload that to my bike computer. And then on the bike computer, find the nearest waypoint and ride to the geocache. And this was the first one I did on the bike computer because I knew there would be no signal here. I've talked about this geocache in several videos and also this area. And you can see all this gray, crumbly looking rock around here. This area and this geocache that used to be here is called Landslide. Originally, I thought this area, when I first came up to the end of the road there, it looked like they had some equipment in here, dozer or front end loader or something. So that was probably back in 2011 when I first came up here. And they may actually have had some equipment up here. There could have been a bit of a slide and they were trying to clear the trail because it looked like it had been machine dug soil. But it doesn't look like that at all now because in 2016 and over the winter into 2017, we had the really heavy rainfall, and this whole area, this was like flowing concrete. It was just gray sludge rolling down the hill. It wasn't like a landslide where there's rocks and dirt tumbling down. It was like a concrete truck had just dumped a load of concrete up here and it was just running down the hill. So yeah, this is the landslide. This all washed out. This used to be the trail here, and that completely washed out. You can see that big ditch. I mean, there's the trail right over there, and it used to come up right by that sign that says it's not a trail. Well, that used to be the trail, and it continued across here, but all that disappeared too. I had tried to find that geocache on my bike computer. Then I loaded that waypoint into my old Street Pilot 3 car GPS and brought it up here because it's got a bigger screen. So I was thinking I could see a little better detail. And then when I got a smartphone, I thought I'd try that. I couldn't find it. And then I got the new smartphone that's got the triple GPS receivers. And I figured, oh, no problem. That'll just walk me right to it. Still couldn't find it. And then I started learning about reading the activity or the log entries in the geocache. And starting in 2016, there was a whole bunch of did not finds. And then this was probably a couple years ago. I forget what they call them. There's like area coordinators for geocaching that kind of oversee all the geocaches in an area and just kind of keep an eye on them. And so they posted in that entry, said, hey, owner attention required. There hasn't been any activity for many years. Can you go check on it? They give them a couple of months to go check, and there was no response. So what they did was they archive the cache and basically mark it inactive, and it doesn't show up in searches. Description said it was in a stump, and I was thinking it might be this dead tree here, but there was probably a tree stump down here that is now down in the creek somewhere. Yeah, a lot of people said they looked for it. I looked for it at least 4 or 5 times. And then I learned, read the log entries, and if you see a whole string of DNFs, don't waste your time. So anyway, there was that Speleothem cache down there that I found without the GPS and just rode right up to it, found it, no problem. This one, I threw every GPS I own at it and could not find it, even though I knew it's got to be right here. I mean, reading the description, I knew exactly where it was. Could not find it, and it's missing. So that's kind of two ends of geocaching. One is you can find it just with the description and just counting tenths of miles and looking for things beside the road. And there's other ones you can have the best GPS receiver in the world, and if the cache is missing, you're not going to find it. So that's one tale of the two geocaches. And so those two geocaches, they're unrelated other than that they're both in this canyon. They're different cache owners, but this one I was reading, and that's when I first appreciated that this was a landslide and not just some road construction that stopped. What these two geocaches, they just planted a little idea in my head, or a thought. I would just periodically run across something on the web, and one day I happened to run across this website. I'll see if I can find a link to it. I haven't been able to find it lately. It was a photo gallery site put together by, I don't know if it was a geology professor, but he had a lot of photos. So there'd be a photo and then there'd be a description of what it was. And he had a description of this landslide, and one of the key features of it, he said, there were large outcrops of serpentinite. And that's what this rock here is. This really crumbly rock here, and kind of gray-green color stuff. This is all serpentinite here. And then he had a picture of the Speleothem down in the canyon, and that's where we started the video. So that site tied together this geocache and the other one, and I could not see the darn thing until I found this photo album that talked about this, and then it also talked about the Speleothem down there and had a picture of it, and then it's like, oh, that's what he's talking about. And then all of a sudden, these two things made sense. But that's what I really like about geocaching, is it gets you looking at things. If I hadn't have found that one cache there, and then had tried to find this cache, and then as a result found that photo album, I would have never known this was a landslide related to the San Andreas Fault, and I would have never known that was a above ground Speleothem travertine deposit. You know, it was later on I found there's more creeks up here that have travertine deposits, and then these landslides are all over the place. This big one here, I'll put a link to the other video I shot. This landslide came from about 400 feet up and left about 100-foot deposit, probably up to about here, was full of landslide deposit from way up there. And I made that whole series of videos showing how it dammed a lake that probably ran way up the canyon here up to the Table Mountain Trail. So yeah, anyway, that is the tale of two geocaches. There's the geocaching tale, one success, one total failure, and then that leading to finding this geology photo gallery page that then told me what these were. And then I started looking into it, and I found the 1973 paper, I think it was 1973, and then finding some of the USGS maps and some of the old topo maps, and then the hillshade maps of this area, and starting to piece together all this stuff up here. And that's what's really fascinating. That's what I like about geocaching. Now, that said, probably 98% of geocaches are just, you find a little thing stuffed in a cubby hole someplace, and you sign the log and you go on, and nothing much happens. But you know, every once in a while there's a cache like this and a cache like the one down there, but then they planted that seed that there's something going on up here, and then a couple of years later you find this bit of information, and then you find something else, and yeah, it just keeps going like that. Now, I mean, another person could come up and find that geocache down there, sign the log, and never think about it again. But that one got me looking. It's like, what is the guy's talking about something in the geocache description, but I looked over here and I looked over there. I couldn't find anything. And it's like, what the heck is that guy talking about? Because he was describing that feature a quarter mile down the road, but he didn't say it was a quarter mile down the road. He just was describing it. Anyway, that's my tale of two geocaches. Hope you found that interesting. Played out over many years, so it's kind of hard to condense it into a short. So sorry about being a rambling video, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I really like. Somebody knew something about this area and put a cache here with a description, and somebody knew something about that Speleothem and put a cache down there, and then somebody like me comes along and tries to find those two caches, reads the descriptions, and then that plants a little seed, and like, I should look into that. And gradually, after 6 or 7 years, you kind of piece together the full story about all that. So yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, if you get into geocaching, really pay attention to those thought-provoking geocaches. The ones I like are the ones that make you think after you find it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that rather rambling tale of two geocaches. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, post up in the comment section below, or if you've had any geocaches like that you've found and really were thought-provoking like that, post those up too. If you have, post the name of the cache or what you found interesting about it. And as always, thanks for watching.